Aduni was in labor, rushing to Lagos University Teaching Hospital when her husband Chike got a phone call that shattered her world. "Baby, where are you?" "I'm waiting at the hotel," a woman's voice purred in English. Chike chose his mistress Kemi over his wife giving birth, abandoning Aduni with their newborn son. He had no idea he was walking away from the daughter of Chief Emeka Okafor worth 20 billion naira, and that decision would destroy his life forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Aduni Okafor had been married to Chike Nwosu for 3 years when her world fell apart on the worst possible day. She was 8 months pregnant and rushing to the hospital when the contractions started getting stronger. But instead of support from her husband, she got the shock of her life. Aduni had always been a simple woman. She worked as a teacher at a local primary school in Lagos, lived in a modest flat with Chike, and never talked about her past. Chike knew she had no contact with her family in Enugu, but he never asked why. He was too busy building his import business and, as Aduni would soon discover, building a relationship with someone else. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Aduni was getting ready for work when she felt the first strong contraction. She had been having small pains for days, but this one took her breath away. "Chike," she called to her husband, who was getting dressed in their bedroom. "I think the baby is coming." Chike looked annoyed. "Are you sure? The baby is not due for another month." Another contraction hit Aduni, stronger than the first. "Yes, I am sure. We need to go to Lagos University Teaching Hospital now." Chike checked his expensive wristwatch and sighed. "Aduni, I have a very important meeting today with my Lebanese business partners. Can you not call your sister or someone?" Aduni stared at her husband in disbelief. "Chike, I told you years ago that I have no family here in Lagos. And this is your baby too. I need you to drive me to the hospital." "Okay, Chike said coldly. "But I cannot stay long. This deal I am working on is worth millions of naira." Aduni felt hurt by his attitude, but she was in too much pain to argue. She grabbed her hospital bag and followed Chike to his Toyota Camry. The drive to LUTH was silent except for Aduni's soft moans when contractions hit. Chike kept checking his iPhone and seemed more worried about his meeting than his wife who was about to give birth. When they arrived at the hospital, Aduni was quickly taken to the maternity ward. The nurse checked her and said, "Madam, you are already 7 centimeters dilated. This baby is coming very soon." Aduni looked around for Chike, but he was in the corridor talking loudly on his phone. "Yes, I understand this is important," Chike was saying in English mixed with Igbo. "I will be there in 1 hour. My wife is handling things here." Aduni could not believe what she was hearing. Her husband was planning to leave her alone while she gave birth to their child. An hour later, as Aduni's contractions got stronger and more painful, Chike appeared in her room looking impatient. "Aduni, I really need to go. This business deal cannot wait. You will be fine here with the nurses and doctors. Chike, please do not leave me. I am scared and the baby is coming soon." Chike checked his phone again. "Look, women have been having babies for thousands of years. You do not need me here." Before Aduni could respond, Chike's phone rang. Aduni heard a woman's voice on the other end, speaking in English with a Lagos accent, and what she heard made her blood run cold. "Baby, where are you?" the voice said. "I am waiting for you at the hotel. You promised we would celebrate closing this deal together." Aduni's heart stopped. "Chike, who is that?" Chike stepped into the corridor, but Aduni could still hear him. "I am at the hospital with Aduni. She is having the baby early. I will be there as soon as I can, Kemi." Aduni felt like the world was crashing down around her. Her husband was having an affair, and he was planning to leave her during labor to be with his mistress. When Chike came back into the room, Aduni was crying. "How long, Chike? How long have you been cheating on me?" Chike looked annoyed that she had overheard. "Aduni, we will talk about this later. I really need to go." "No, we will talk about it now. I am having your baby, and you want to leave me for another woman." Chike's face grew cold. "Aduni, if you must know, I have been seeing Kemi for 8 months. She is sophisticated, successful, and she understands my business. She does not live in some small flat teaching children all day." Aduni felt another strong contraction, but the emotional pain was worse than the physical pain. 8 months? I was already pregnant when you started cheating on me? Look, Aduni, let us be honest. We rushed into marriage. We are different people. Kemi and I have more in common. She has her own boutique in Victoria Island. Aduni could not believe what she was hearing. "Chike, I am having our baby right now. How can you be talking about another woman?" Chike shrugged. "The baby will be fine. You will be fine. I have a life to live, and it is not this life. Dr. Emeka, Aduni's doctor, entered the room at that moment. Mrs. Nwosu, it is time to push. Where do you want your husband to stand? Chike backed toward the door. Actually, I have to leave. Family emergency. Dr. Emeka looked confused. Sir, your wife is about to give birth. She is a strong woman from the village. She can handle it, Chike said, already walking out. Aduni watched her husband leave her in the most vulnerable moment of her life. She felt completely alone and abandoned. 2 hours later, Aduni gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She held her son and cried, partly from joy and partly from heartbreak. She had imagined this moment so many times, always with Chike beside her, celebrating their first child together. Instead, she was alone. The next morning, Chike finally returned to the hospital. He looked tired and his clothes were wrinkled, making it obvious where he had spent the night. So, did everything go well? He asked casually, as if Aduni had just bought groceries instead of giving birth. Your son is beautiful, Aduni said quietly, holding the baby. Do you want to hold him? Chike barely looked at the baby. Aduni, we need to talk. Kemi and we are serious. I want a divorce. Aduni stared at her husband. You are asking for a divorce while I am holding our newborn son? It is better to be honest. Kemi is pregnant too. We want to get married before her baby is born. Aduni felt like she had been slapped. She is pregnant? How far along? 6 months. Look, Aduni, I know this is hard, but we both deserve to be happy. Aduni realized that Chike had gotten his mistress pregnant while Aduni was already pregnant with his child. He had been living a complete double life. What about our son? What about supporting him? Chike shrugged. I will pay what the court says I must pay. And where am I supposed to live? The flat lease is in your name. You will figure it out. Maybe you can go back to your people in Enugu. Aduni's eyes filled with tears. Chike, I told you years ago that my family and we had problems. They did not want me to marry you because they said you were not from a good family. This was only partially true. Aduni's parents had not rejected her, but she had chosen to cut contact with them after a terrible fight about her choice to live a simple life instead of using the family wealth. Well, that is not my problem anymore, Chike said coldly. I want you out of the flat by the end of the week. Dr. Emeka entered the room and overheard the last part of the conversation. Mr. Nwosu, your wife just gave birth. She needs time to recover. She cannot be moving around and stressing herself. She is stronger than she looks, Chike said. Aduni, I will come later to collect my things. After Chike left, Dr. Emeka sat down next to Aduni's bed. Mrs. Nwosu, I have been delivering babies for 20 years, and I have never seen a husband abandon his wife like that. Do you have somewhere safe to go? Aduni shook her head. No family here, no close friends. I have been so focused on my marriage and preparing for the baby that I do not have anyone else. There are shelters for women in your situation. Social services can help. Aduni looked down at her sleeping son. I cannot take my baby to a shelter. There has to be another way. That night, alone in her hospital room, Aduni made a decision she had sworn she would never make. She picked up her phone and called a number she had not dialed in 3 years. Okafor Industries, a formal voice answered in English. This is Aduni Okafor. I need to speak with my father. There was a pause. Miss Aduni? 1 moment, please. A few minutes later, Aduni heard her father's familiar voice speaking in Igbo. Aduni? Is that really you, my daughter? Yes, Papa. It is me. My dear child, we have missed you so much. Your mother lights candles and prays for you every Sunday at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Aduni started crying. Papa, I am sorry. I was so stubborn. I thought I could make it on my own, but I was wrong. Where are you, my daughter? Are you well? Aduni told her father everything. About Chike, about the affair, about being abandoned at the hospital with a newborn baby. I will be there tomorrow, her father said firmly. Do not worry about anything. We are going to take care of you and our grandson. The next morning, Aduni was surprised when Dr. Emeka came into her room looking excited. Mrs. Nwosu, there are some very important-looking people here to see you. They say they are your family? They came in a convoy of cars with security. Aduni's father, Chief Emeka Okafor, entered the room wearing a traditional white agbada with gold embroidery, followed by Aduni's mother, Lolo Grace Okafor, in an elegant George wrapper, and their family lawyer. Aduni had not seen her parents in 3 years, and they looked older but just as dignified as she remembered. Aduni, my precious daughter, her mother said, rushing to hug her carefully while speaking in Igbo. Let me see my grandson. As her parents fussed over the baby, Aduni noticed that other patients and nurses were staring. Her father's presence seemed to command attention wherever he went. Some people were whispering, "Is that not Chief Okafor?" "Adunni," her father said, "we need to discuss your situation. I have brought our lawyer to handle the divorce proceedings." "Papa, I cannot afford a lawyer. Chike said he will only pay basic child support." Her father smiled grimly. "Adunni, I think you have forgotten who you are. You are Adunni Okafor, daughter of Chief Emeka Okafor. Your husband has no idea what he is dealing with." Adunni had almost forgotten. Her father owned Okafor Industries, one of the largest oil and gas companies in Nigeria. The family was worth over 20 billion naira. "But Papa, I gave up all claim to the family money when I left. I wanted to live independently." "You gave up your monthly allowance, not your inheritance. You are still our only daughter, and you are still set to inherit everything, including the $20 million trust fund that was set up for you when you were born." Adunni stared at her father. $20 million? That is just your trust fund. The total inheritance is much more. Adunni's lawyer, Barrister Williams, spoke up. "Mrs. Nwosu, with your family's financial background, this divorce settlement will be very different from what your husband expects." 2 days later, Adunni was discharged from the hospital. Instead of going back to the small flat in Surulere, she went home to the Okafor family compound in Ikoyi where she had grown up. Chike had no idea where Adunni had gone. He had returned to the flat expecting to find her packing, but she was nowhere to be found. All her belongings were gone too. For a week, Chike tried calling Adunni, but her MTN line was switched off. He started to worry because he needed her to sign divorce papers so he could marry Kemi. Finally, Chike hired a private investigator to find Adunni. When the investigator reported back, Chike thought there had been a mistake. "Mr. Nwosu, your wife is staying at the Okafor compound in Ikoyi. That is the mansion owned by Chief Emeka Okafor of Okafor Industries." "That is impossible. Adunni does not know anyone with that kind of money." "Sir, according to my research, Adunni Nwosu's maiden name is Adunni Okafor. She is the daughter of Chief Emeka Okafor, one of Nigeria's richest men." Chike felt the blood drain from his face. "That cannot be right. Adunni is a primary school teacher. She is poor." "Sir, she may work as a teacher, but she is the heir to the Okafor fortune. The family is worth over 20 billion naira." Chike sat down heavily. Adunni, his wife who he had dismissed as a simple village girl, was actually richer than his wildest dreams. That afternoon, Chike drove to the Okafor compound. When he arrived at the gates, he was stopped by security guards. "I am here to see my wife, Adunni Nwosu." The guard checked his list. "I am sorry, sir. You are not on the approved visitor list. I am her husband. I have a right to see her." "Sir, let me call the house." A few minutes later, the guard returned. "Mr. Nwosu, Madame Adunni will see you, but only with her lawyers present." Chike was escorted to a formal sitting room in the mansion. He had never seen such luxury. The house was like a palace, with expensive artwork and furniture that probably cost more than his car. Adunni entered the room wearing an elegant Ankara dress and Geli head wrap, looking more beautiful than Chike had ever seen her. She was followed by 2 men in expensive suits. "Hello, Chike. Adunni, you look different." "I look like myself. The self I was before I tried to be someone smaller to make you comfortable." Chike looked around the room nervously. "Adunni, we need to talk about the divorce. I think we can work something out that is fair for both of us." "Fair?" Adunni laughed. "Chike, do you know what fair would have been? Fair would have been my husband staying with me while I gave birth to our son. Fair would have been not cheating on me while I was pregnant. Fair would have been not throwing me out of our home with a newborn baby. Adunni, I made mistakes, but—" "Mr. Nwosu," one of the lawyers interrupted, "let me explain your situation. You have been served with divorce papers. Mrs. Okafor is seeking full custody of the child, as well as damages for emotional distress and abandonment." "What kind of damages?" 500 million naira. Chike's mouth fell open. 500 million? Adunni does not have that kind of money. Adunni smiled. "Chike, I have more money than you have ever seen. The question is, how much of it are you going to lose in this divorce?" The lawyer continued. "Mr. Nwosu, your wife documented your abandonment at the hospital. We have witness statements from doctors and nurses. We also have evidence of your affair and your threat to make your wife homeless with a newborn. But Adunni never told me she was rich. Mr. Nwosu, your wife's financial status does not excuse your behavior. In fact, it makes your actions look worse. You abandoned a woman during childbirth not because she was poor, but because you are heartless." Adunni stood up. Chike, I'm going to give you one chance to do the right thing. You can agree to my terms for the divorce, or we can go to court and let a judge decide. What are your terms? You give up all parental rights to our son. You stay away from both of us. In exchange, I will not sue you for damages, and I will not destroy your business. You cannot destroy my business. Aduni's father, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke in Igbo, then switched to English. Mr. Nwosu, Okafor Industries does business with every major company in Lagos and Abuja. One phone call from me and you will never get another contract. Chike realized he was trapped. Aduni, the woman he had thought was beneath him, held all the power. And Kemi? Chike asked quietly. What about her? Will you do anything to hurt her? Aduni looked surprised. Chike, Kemi did not betray me. You did. Kemi does not even know me. My anger is with you, not with her. Chike signed the papers that day. He gave up all rights to his son and walked away from Aduni's life forever. 6 months later, Aduni was living happily in the family compound with her son, Emeka Jr., named after his grandfather. She had started a foundation that helped single mothers get back on their feet after divorce or abandonment. Aduni never remarried, but she was not alone. She had her family, her son, and a purpose that fulfilled her in ways her marriage never had. One day, Aduni's mother asked her in Igbo, "Do you ever regret not telling Chike about the money from the beginning?" Aduni thought about this carefully. No, Mama. If Chike had known I was rich, he might have treated me better, but for the wrong reasons. This way I learned who he really was. And I learned that I am stronger than I ever imagined. And now I know that the right person will love me for who I am, not for what I have. And until I find that person, I have everything I need. Aduni looked out the window at the garden where her son was playing with his grandmother. She had lost a husband who never deserved her, but she had gained something much more valuable, the knowledge of her own worth. Sometimes, Aduni thought, you have to lose everything to discover that you never really had anything to lose in the first place. And sometimes, the person who thinks they are discarding you is actually setting you free to find something much better. Chike, meanwhile, married Kemi but never forgot the fortune he had walked away from. His business struggled, and he spent the rest of his life wondering what would have happened if he had been a better man. But Aduni never looked back. She had learned that true wealth is not just money in the bank, it is knowing that you deserve to be treated with love and respect, no matter what your bank account says. And that lesson was worth more than all the money in the world.